Good day, Kahnawake. My name is Lloyd Phillips. I'm a Commissioner of Public Safety. I have here with me Robin Mentor, the General Manager of Public Safety Operations, along with Portfolio Chief for Public Safety, Ryan Mentor. We're here today to officially read into the record the Kahnawake Animal Control Law, which is part of the CDMP process, one of the last phases prior to enactment. And this law here is going to be repealing and replacing the law version of March 2002, March 25th of 2002, which was the last time this law was amended. So that was nearly 22 years ago. So moving forward, we're each going to take turns reading sections of the law, and we will after this, we move forward for enactment. So the first section of the law is obviously Section 1. And the short title of this law may be cited as the Animal Control Law.
2. Jurisdiction. 2.1. The Kahnawake of Kahnawake are a community within Kahnawake Nation and Rodinusunyuwe. The Kahnawake of Kahnawake are indigenous peoples who possess a fundamental and inherent right of self-determination. The Kahnawake of Kahnawake have consistently and historically exercised ultimate and exclusive jurisdiction over the Mohawk territory of Kahnawake and have asserted our rights and laws with foreign governments. The Kahnawake of Kahnawake have existed and inherent rights, including the right of self-determination, which includes the right and responsibility to control and regulate animals within their territory. The Kahnawake of Kahnawake, represented by the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, have the ultimate power, right, and jurisdiction to control and regulate animals within their territory.
Section 3, Purpose. 3.1. This law is an expression of the wishes of the Kahnawake of Kahnawake that animals be controlled and regulated in a fair and responsible manner to preserve the health and safety of the public and animals within the territory.
Section 4, Application. This law applies to all animals and their owners on the Mohawk territory of Kahnawake.
Section 5, Definitions. For the purpose of this law, the following definitions apply. A. Administrative tribunal means the tribunal established pursuant to the Kahnawake Justice Act, KRL, Chapter J-1. B. Animal means any bird, reptile, amphibian, or mammal excluding humans and wildlife. C. Animal Control Facility means the community-owned facility managed by the Public Safety Division of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake and established for the holding of impounded animals as set out in this law. D. Animal Control Officer means a person appointed pursuant to this law and its regulations and empowered to enforce the provisions of this law. E. Commissioner means the Commissioner of Public Safety or that person's designate. F. Dog of Concern means a dog designated by an animal control officer with potential restrictions on its ownership.
G. Former owner means a person who at the time of impoundment was the owner of an animal which has subsequently been adopted, relocated, and or euthanized. H. Justice means a justice of the peace of the Court of Kahnawake or any other judge appointed pursuant to the Kahnawake Justice Act, KRL Chapter 1-1 or its regulations, but excludes an appeal judge appointed pursuant to that act. I. Kahnawake Peacekeeper or Peacekeeper means a person authorized by the Kahnawake Peacekeeper Law, KRL Chapter P-1 to act as a peace officer within the powers and obligations provided by police officers in the Criminal Code of Canada, includes the Chief Peacekeeper. Leash means a chain or other material capable of restraining an animal for which it is used. K. Livestock includes but not limited to 1. A horse, mule, cow, pig, sheep, or goat. 2. Domestically reared or kept deer or bison. 3. farm-bred fur-bearing animals. 4. Animals of the avian species, including chickens, turkeys, ducks, geese, or pheasants. And 5. All other animals that are kept for agricultural purposes, but does not include cats, dogs, or other domesticated household pets. I. Mohawk territory of Kahnawake means the lands presently under the control and jurisdiction of the Kahnawake of Kahnawake, including Tsothorkó, Doncaster, and the lands referred to by the Government of Canada as Kahnawake Indian Reserve Number 14. 2. Any and all lands that may be added to the lands now under the control and jurisdiction of the Kahnawake of Kahnawake through the negotiation and resolution of land grievances. 3. Any and all lands that may be added to the lands now under the control and jurisdictions of the Kahnawake of Kahnawake as a result of any other means. 4. Lands which are returned to Kahnawake as lands within the meaning of subsection 91(24) of the Constitution Act 1867. 5. The water and waterways under control and jurisdiction of the Kahnawake of Kahnawake. And 6. Lands that Kahnawake has not relinquished or ceded.
M. Owner means any natural or legal person. Part 1. Who is registered owner of the animal. 2. Who has legal title to the animal. 3. Who has possession or custody of the animal either temporarily or permanently. Or 4. Who harbors the animal or allows the animal to remain on their premises. N. Prohibited dog means a dog subject to euthanization or relocation following a decision made by the animal control officer. O. Property includes all property, movable or immovable, real or personal, including but not limited to dwellings, buildings, residences, and premises situated on the Mohawk territory of Kahnawake, of which any person has possession, use, occupation, lease, enjoyment, or exercise of rights in respect thereto. P. Public place means any place which the animal has access of right by way of invitation, expressed or implied. Q. Running at large means an animal that is not on the property of the owner and not on a leash and or under the control of a responsible person. R. Trespasser means a person who unlawfully enters or occupies another person's property without permission or good faith.
Section 6. Duty of care. 6.1. The owner of the animal must provide the animal with adequate shelter, food, water, and appropriate care, and must not mistreat or be cruel to the animal, including exposing the animal to extreme heat or cold. Section 6.2. In accordance with the section 6.1, an owner must provide the animal with veterinary care when needed, including the inoculation required in accordance with the generally accepted veterinarian standards. 6.3. No owner may abandon an animal. Section 7. Registration information. 7.1. Registration is recommended for all cats and dogs in the territory. The owner of Section 7.2. The owner of a dog found running at large may be obligated to register their dog prior to the release from the animal control officer. I'll stop there. It's not my section. You want me to continue? Oh, that's yours, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. That's because of
What section did you end off on?
7.
Okay, I'll just start from 7.1 and we'll go from there. This is under Section 7, registration information. 7.1, registration information is recommended for all cats and dogs in the territory. 7.2, the owner of a dog found running at large may be obligated to register their dog prior to its release from the animal control facility. 7.3, when registering under this law, the owner must provide the following information. A description of the cat or dog, including breed, name, gender, and age. B, the name, address, and telephone number of the owner. C, where the owner is a legal person, the name, address, and telephone number of the natural person responsible for the cat or dog. D, information established if the cat or dog is neutered or spayed. E. Any other information as animal control officer may be required or which is contained in the registration form. And F. Registration fee for each dog or cat as established by the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. 7.4. If any information is missing or incorrect, the animal control officer may refuse to register the animal. 7.5. No person will give false information when applying for a registration tag pursuant to this law. 7.6. An owner will notify the animal control facility within 5 days of any change with respect to any information provided in the application for registration.
Section 8. Replacement of lost registration tag. 8.1. Upon losing a registration tag, an owner must pay a replacement fee for the registration tag and as established by the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake.
Section 9. Service animals. 9.1. Where the animal control officer is satisfied that a person who requires a service animal that is trained and used to assist such person, there will be no fee payable by the owner for registration.
Section 10 is private kennel, breeding, and or pet store license. 10.1. No person will operate a private kennel, pet store, or other facility where animals are boarded or bred for resale without having issued a license from the Public Safety Division. 10.2. When issuing a private kennel license or breeding license, the animal control officer may impose such conditions as may be necessary to ensure humane treatment of animals boarded or bred at the facility, as well as any conditions that may be necessary to ensure the kennel does not create a nuisance to the surrounding properties. 10.3. Every person who owns or operates a kennel or pet store or who breeds cats or dogs must allow an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper to enter and inspect the premises at all reasonable times upon production of proper identification for the purposes of determining compliance with this law. 10.4. Where animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper finds that an owner or operator of a kennel, pet store, or person who breeds animal does not comply with this law, they may direct the animals to be seized or impounded. 10.5. A private kennel license, pet store license, or breeding license may be revoked by the animal control officer if they have reasons to believe that the kennel is no longer operating in a manner in which ensures the humane treatment of animals boarded or bred in the facility or is a nuisance to the surrounding properties. 10.6. After notifying the applicant or license holder in writing of pending decisions under Section 10 and allowing them at least 5 business days to submit observations, the animal control officer may suspend, cancel, or refuse a license if A. They do not meet or no longer meet the conditions prescribed by the law for the issuance prescribed by this law for issue or renewal of the license. B. Fails to comply with any conditions, restrictions, or prohibitions specified on the license. C. They have been found guilty of an offense under this law or regulations. D. Has repeatedly failed to comply with the law or regulations. Or E. They have been found guilty of an offense under an act or regulation or under a criminal code RSC 1985 section 46 in relations to treatment of animals or illegal possession of an animal. 10.7. A decision of the animal control officer under section 10.5 or 10.6 must be rendered in writing with the reasons and notifying the person and notify to the person it concerns. The decision takes effect on the date of notification. 10.9, a person whose application or license is refused or whose license is suspended, canceled, or refused may request a review by the commissioner of the animal control officer's decision within 15 days of notification of the decision. 10.10, the owner may request may request a review of the Commissioner's decision before the Administrative Tribunal in accordance with the Kahnawake Justice Act and its applicable regulations within 15 days after notification of the decision. 10.11. The decision of the Administrative Tribunal is final and without appeal.
Section 11. Non-transferable. 11.1. A registration or license issued pursuant to this law is not transferable.
Section 12. Animals running at large. 12.1. Every owner must ensure that the animal is not running at large and responsible for the confining their animal by any sufficient and humane way to prevent the animal from running at large. 12.2. Animals found running at large will be taken by an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper to the animal control facility. 12.3. Animals taken to the animal control facility that are not registered and identifiable in accordance with this law after a delay of 72 hours from the time of pickup may be put up for adoption, sent to a local shelter, the SPCA, a rescue facility, or humanely euthanized pursuant to the procedures established by the Public Safety Division of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake or by regulation. 12.4. The owner of a registered animal will be contacted to reclaim the animal from the animal control facility within 24 hours of picking up the animal. 12.5. If after 24 hours no contact has been made with the owner, the animal control facility must serve the owner with a written notice as established by the Public Safety Division of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. 12.6. The owner fails to respond to the notice after a delay of 72 hours from the time of receiving the notice, the animal may be put up for adoption, sent to a local shelter, the SPCA, a rescue facility, or humanely euthanized pursuant to the procedures established by the Public Safety Division of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. 12.7. The animal control officer may retain an animal for a longer period if the circumstances warrant or they have responsible grounds to believe the animal is a danger to persons, animals, or property. 12.8. If an animal is kept on the reasonable grounds that it is a danger to persons, animals, or property, the animal control officer must follow the process in Section 24 of this law and any applicable regulations. 12.9. In addition to any penalties that may be imposed, the owner claiming the animal from the animal control facility will be required to pay the costs related to the holding as well as complying with Section 26 of the law and any applicable regulations. 12.10. An owner's license to breed may be revoked if their cat or dog is found running at large and may be required to spay or neuter the cat or dog prior to it being released.
Section 13. Off-leash areas. 13.1. Notwithstanding Section 12, an owner of a dog is not required to have their dog on a leash in a park or a portion of a park which has been designated an off-leash area. 13.2. The owner of a dog in an off-leash area must ensure the dog is under control at all times. Section 13.3. The animal control officer may A. Order that a dog be put on a leash, B. Order the dog be removed from an off-leash area, or C. Ban the dog from off-leash areas. 13.4. Nothing in this section relieves any person from complying with other provisions of this law. Section 13.5. No persons will allow an animal other than a dog to enter or remain in an off-leash area.
Section 14. Restrictions on dogs in public. 14.1. The owner of a dog will ensure that their dog is on a leash while in a public place. 14.2. Owner must control their dogs when they are in a public place and are responsible for any damage that is done to property. 14.3. The owner of a dog must ensure that their dog does not enter or remain in any area where dogs are prohibited by posted signs.
Section 15. Disposal of waste. 15.1. An owner of an animal must, when the animal is off the premises of its owner, immediately pick up and dispose of any excrement, vomit, or any waste droppings or left by the animal on the property. 15.2. If an animal is on any public or private property other than the property of its owner, the owner must have in their possession a suitable means of removing the animal's waste.
Section 16, unattended animals. 16.1, the owner of an animal must ensure that their animal is not left unattended while tethered or tied in a public place. 16.2, the owner of an animal left unsupervised while tethered or tied on private property must ensure: A, the animal is restrained in a manner that allows enough space for the animal to have free movement. B, the animal does not have access to public property. C, the animal has access to sufficient food and water. D, the animal has access to shelter from the elements. And E, any other requirement for humane treatment of the animal and avoidance of nuisance to the community. 16.3, the owner of the animal left unattended in a motor vehicle will ensure: A, the animal is restrained in a manner that prevents contact between the animal and any member of the public, and B, the animal has suitable ventilation and hydration. Section 16.4, the owner of an animal must not leave an animal unattended in a motor vehicle if the weather conditions are not suitable for the well-being of the animal. Section 16.5, in the event an animal is in distress or danger, a peacekeeper may enter the vehicle and seize the animal.
Section 17, contagious diseases. 17.1, an owner of an animal must ensure that all vaccines are up to date and that they have proof of the vaccinations. 17.2, an owner of an animal suspected of having rabies or any other contagious disease must immediately report the matter to an animal control officer. 17.3, an owner of an animal suspected of having rabies or any other contagious disease must confine or isolate the animal in such a manner as prescribed by the animal control officer, so as to prevent further spread of the disease. This may include paying for appropriate confinement at the animal control facility or other suitable facility. 17.4, the animal control officer may require the owner to provide a medical document prior to ending the isolation or confinement. 17.5, following any animal bite, the owner must show proof of vaccinations, and if the animal does not have updated vaccines, the owner will be required to get the animal vaccinated and provide proof to an animal control officer within 30 days of the bite.
Section 18, noise. 18.1, the owner of an animal, a kennel, or a pet store must not permit the animal to bark, cry, howl, or make any other frequent or long continuous noise that disturbs the peace and quiet of the persons who reside or work in the neighborhood.
Section 19, scattering garbage and recycling. 19.1, the owner of an animal must ensure that the animal does not disturb any waste or recycling receptacles or scatter the contents on public property or in or about the premises not belonging to or in the possession of the owner of the animal.
Section 20, threatening behaviors. 20.1, the owner of an animal or livestock must ensure that their animal does not: A, bite, bark at, or chase livestock, animals, bicycles, automobiles, or other vehicles. B, chase or otherwise threaten a person or persons, whether on the property of the owner or not, unless the person chased or threatened is a trespasser on the property of the owner. C, cause damage to property or to other animals when the animal is off the property of the owner. D, do any act that injures a person or persons, whether on the property of the owner or not. Or E, cause death to another animal.
Section 21, other animals and livestock. 21.1, an owner of any livestock must ensure that when the animal or livestock are off the owner's property or outside of a fenced area, that they are under the control of the owner.
Section 22, prohibited activities. 22.1, no one will establish or operate a kennel to breed vicious or aggressive animals. 22.2, no one will breed or use an animal for the purposes of engaging them in fights. 22.3, no owner will use or direct an animal to attack, chase, harass, or threaten a person or animal except in extenuating circumstances. 22.4, no person will own or possess an animal which poses a risk to public safety, including but not limited to exotic animals as prescribed by regulation. 22.2, no one will own or keep more than a maximum of 5 dogs and 5 cats per household unless they hold a kennel or breeder's license. 22.6, no person can keep an animal in unsanitary conditions within the territory. Conditions will be considered unsanitary where the keeping of the animal results in the accumulation of fecal matter, odor, insect infestation, or rodent attractions which endanger the health of the animal or any person, or which disturb or are likely to disturb the enjoyment, comfort, or convenience of any person in or about the dwelling or commercial establishment.
Section 23, seizure. 23.1, an animal control officer or Kahnawake peacekeeper may capture and impound any animal or livestock which is required to be impounded for the safety of the animal, livestock, or the community pursuant to the provisions of this law or any regulation made thereunder. 23.2, an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper may capture and impound any animal running at large with respect to which the complaint under this law has been made.
Section 24, dogs of concern and prohibited dogs. 24.1, the animal control officer may seize a dog when they have reasonable grounds to believe that the dog is a dog of concern or is a prohibited dog. 24.2, before any decision of an animal control officer is designating a dog as a dog of concern or a prohibited dog, the owner must be notified of the reasons for the designation as well as the opportunity to provide a response. 24.3, the animal control officer may place conditions on the ownership and care of the dog of concern in order to ensure the protection and safety of the public before releasing the animal. 24.4, upon reviewing all the evidence, the animal control officer will declare a dog to be a prohibited dog if there is a serious risk to public safety, including but not limited to attacking or causing harm to people or animals. 24.5, any designation under section 24 and conditions imposed on ownership must be updated by the animal control officer in the registration. 24.6, the owner of an animal control officer may be reviewed by the commissioner of public safety by requesting a review within 15 days of the animal control officer's designation. The owner may request a review of the commissioner's decision before the administrative tribunal in accordance with the Kahnawake Justice Act and its applications within 15 days after notifications of the decision. 24.8, the decision of the administrative tribunal is final and without appeal. 24.9, following the end of the delay for review, prohibited dogs must be relocated off of the territory or humanely euthanized within 5 days unless there is proof of exceptional circumstances. 24.10, the dog of concern designation continues to apply if the animal is sold, given, or transferred to a new owner. 24.11, if the owner of the dog that has been designated as a dog of concern or a prohibited dog is unwilling or unable to comply with the requirements of this law, the dog may be humanely euthanized after a 5-day holding period. 24.12, any dog that has been designated as a prohibited dog under this law may not be offered for adoption or sale within the territory. 24.13, the owner must be notified in writing of all decisions under section 24.
Section 25, obstruction and interference. 25.1, no person, whether or not the person is the owner of the animal which is being or has been pursued or captured, will A, interfere with or attempt to obstruct an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper who is attempting to capture or who has captured an animal which is subject to impoundment or seizure. B, open the vehicle in which the animals have been captured for impoundment or seizure. Or C, remove or attempt to remove an animal from the possession of an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper. 25.2, no person will A. Untie, loosen, or otherwise free an animal which has been tied or otherwise restrained. B. Neglectfully or or willfully open a gate, door, or other opening in a fence or enclosure in which the animal has been confined, and thereby allowing the animal to be running at large in the territory. C. Entice an animal to go running at large. D. Tease an animal in an enclosed space. E. Throw or poke any object into an enclosed space where the animal is confined or confined therein. Section 25.3. Section 25 does not apply to an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper who is attempting to capture or who has captured an animal which is subject to impoundment or seizure pursuant to this law.
Section 26, reclaiming. 26.1, the owner of any impounded animal may reclaim the animal by A. Paying to the animal control facility the costs of impoundment as established by the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. B. Where a license or registration is required under this law, obtaining the license or registration. C. Proof of the animal having been spayed or neutered or the payment for spaying and neutering. D. Providing proof of ownership of the animal or livestock. And E. Any other conditions established by regulation.
Section 27, enforcement. 27.1, animal control officers and the Kahnawake peacekeepers have the authority and jurisdiction to enforce the present law, including the authority to investigate complaints, give notices, issue statements of offense, and impose any measures required and permitted by the present law and its regulations. 27.2, any owner who fails to comply to the measures imposed by the animal control officer or Kahnawake peacekeeper is liable to a fine as prescribed in this law or its regulations.
Section 28, inspections. 28.1, an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper bearing proper identification may conduct an inspection in order to determine whether or not this law or an order issued pursuant to this law or its regulation is being complied with. Section 28.2, if the area to be inspected is private property and the owner does not consent to the inspection, a warrant may be sought by the Kahnawake peacekeepers from justice. 28.3, no person will interfere with or attempt to obstruct an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper who is attempting to conduct an inspection pursuant to Section 28 and is liable for a fine as prescribed in this law or its regulations.
Section 29, authority of the animal control officer. 29.1, the animal control officer may A. Receive animals into protective care pursuant to fire, flood, or other reasons. B. Retain animals temporarily. C. Humanely euthanize any animal in extreme terminal distress where it is not possible to contact an owner immediately. D. Charge the owner fees as established by the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. 29.2. The animal control officers are authorized to offer for adoption, transport to another animal facility, humanely euthanize, or otherwise dispose of all unclaimed animals or livestock which have been received at the animal control facility pursuant to this law and its regulations. 29.3. Animal control officers are not liable for actions or decisions pursuant to their authority as animal control officers under this law, unless such acts, omissions, or decisions are found by the Court of Kahnawake upon entry or final judgment to be outside the scope of the animal control officer's authority or made in bad faith or as a result of gross negligence. 29.4. Animal control officers are authorized to, before offering an unclaimed animal for adoption, require that the animal be spayed or neutered. The cost of the procedure is borne by the owner.
Section 30, fee for euthanizing. 30.1, when an animal is to be euthanized, the owner must pay to the animal control facility a fee as established by the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake.
Section 31, full right and title. 31.1, The person who adopts an animal from the animal control facility pursuant to provisions of this law will obtain full right and title to it, and the right and title of the former owner of the animal will cease thereupon.
Section 32. Offenses and penalties. 32.1. If an animal or livestock is involved in a contravention of this law, the owner is subject to the penalties under this law. 32.2. Every owner of an animal or livestock who contravenes any of the provisions of this law or its regulations by A. doing any act or thing which the person is prohibited from doing, or B. failing to do any act or thing the person is required to do, is subject to the penalties under this law or as prescribed by regulation. 32.3. Where an animal control officer or a Kahnawake peacekeeper has reasonable grounds to believe that a person has contravened any provision of this law, they may commence proceedings by issuing a statement of offense. 32.4. Everyone who contravenes any section or provision of this law is liable to a fine as prescribed in the law or as prescribed by regulation under this law. 32.5. All fines against dogs designated as a dog of concern are automatically doubled. 32.6. Unless otherwise specified in this law or by regulation, everyone who contravenes any provision of this law is guilty of an offense and shall be liable upon summary conviction to a minimum fine of $150 for the first offense and up to a maximum of $1,000 for each succeeding offense.
Section 33. Continuing offenses. 33.1. In the case of an offense that is of a continuing nature, a contravention constitutes a separate offense in respect of each day or part of a day, on which the offense continues and is liable to a fine in the amount not less than that established by this law for each day. Section 34.
Section 34 is prescription. 34.1. Proceedings are prescribed by 1 year from the date of the commission of the offense.
Section 35. Court of Kahnawake. 35.1. Unless otherwise specified by this law, the Court of Kahnawake has jurisdiction over all matters related to this law. 35.2. The defendant must submit a plea of guilty or not guilty within 30 days after service of the statement of offense to the place indicated therein. 35.3. Contestations to a measure imposed under this law must be made within 30 days unless otherwise provided for the law or its regulations. 35.4. Judgment from the Court of Kahnawake taken pursuant to the application of this law are final and without appeal.
Section 36. Orders by a justice. 36.1. Following a conviction under this law, a justice may make an order that is deemed necessary, including but not limited to A. That the costs incurred by the plaintiff and or animal control unit be reimbursed by the defendant. B. That the owner prevent the animal from doing mischief or causing the disturbance or nuisance complaining of. C. That the animal is a dog of concern. D. That the animal is a prohibited dog. E. That the animal has that the animal be humanely euthanized, or F. That the owner be prohibited from owning any animal for a specific period of time.
Section 37. Certified copy of records. 37.1. A certified copy of a record produced by the commissioner or an animal control officer will be admitted into evidence as a prima facie proof of facts stated in the record without requiring proof of the appointment or signature of the person signing it.
Section 38. Regulations. 38.1. The Mohawk Council of Kahnawake may enact the following regulations concerning A. Exotic animals. B. Seizure of animals. C. Dogs of concern. D. Prohibited dogs. E. Adoption of animals. F. The appointment of animal control officers and the form and content of their oath of office. G. The conditions, standards, and requirements for the issuance of a private kennel license. H. The conditions, standards, and requirements for the issuance of a pet shop license. I. The conditions, standards, and requirements for the issuance of a breeder's license. And J. Any other regulations necessary required to achieve the purpose of this law.
Section 39, transitional. 39.1, an existing registration issued under the Kahnawake Animal Control Law, KRL Chapter A-2, enacted by Mall Council Resolution number 65/2001-2002 on 25 March 2002 remains valid. 39.2, administrative hearings will be heard by a justice of the Court of Kahnawake until such times as decision makers are appointed to the administrative tribunal. 39.3, the Kahnawake Animal Control Law, KRL Chapter A-2, enacted by Mall Council Resolution number 65/2001-2002 on March 25th, 2002, is repealed and replaced by this law.
Section 40, General Provisions. 40.1. Each provision of this law is independent of all other provisions, and if any provision is declared invalid for any reason by the Court of Kahnawake, all other provisions of the law remain valid and enforceable. 40.2. Nothing in this law relieves any person from complying with any provision of any other law, regulation, or any requirement of any lawful permit, order, or license.
Section 41, amendments. 41.1. This law may be amended in accordance with the procedures set forth in the community decision-making and review process or any other process which may replace it.
Section 42, effective date. 42.1, this law comes into force and effect on the date is affirmed by the Mall Council of Kahnawake resolution.
And thank you very much, and that concludes the official reading of the Kahnawake Animal Control Law.